Welcome to the Hardcore MBA Podcast with your host, Erlend, Bakke.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Hardcore MBA. I am in Oslo, Norway, and I am wearing my Santa Cruz t-shirt, which I actually bought in Santa Cruz when I turned 30, because that's where I celebrated it. And my man here today, Tom Corson Knowles, he is a serial entrepreneur, blogger, international best-selling author. He's got a bunch of books, and he's made a lot of money on books. And he also helps people now publish and generate leads, make money on books. He studied at the Kelley School of Business, graduated at 22, and when he did that, he had a full-time income. So basically, he's been around, and he started first business at the age of 13, which I didn't, which I wish I did. I just wanted to make money when I was 14, so I started working for somebody else, trading my time for money, which isn't always a good idea. So you actually scaled your value, which is a much smarter way. So you're in Hawaii. Where in Hawaii are you signing in from?
I'm in Kauai, the Garden Island.
Okay. Is there any surfing there?
There's a whole bunch of surfing here. Yeah, for sure.
Have you written any how to surf books?
No, it's not my expertise at all. I've only gone surfing a couple of times. I'm definitely not a pro yet.
Okay. So your first business, SAD lamps. What is that?
So when I was 13 years old, my dad was a woodworker. It was like his hobby. So he was a medical doctor by profession, but his hobby was woodworking. And so, as a doctor, he, with friends and family and people, he would tell them about, different medical conditions. And we noticed a lot of the people who were family friends had what's called SAD, seasonal affective disorder. And it's something where when you live in the far north or the far south and you don't get much sunlight, especially like in the winter months, because you don't get enough sunlight through your eyes to your brain, it can cause depression and all kinds of psychological disorders and symptoms just because of the lack of sunlight, right? Mm-hmm. And so a SAD lamp or seasonal affective disorder lamp essentially just mimics the radiation from the sun. And just by having that on your desk for half an hour a day or an hour a day can dramatically improve your mood and your psychological health and your emotional health. And so we just started manufacturing these things out of our garage from my dad's little, wood shop and selling them to friends and family. People needed them and then through referrals and so forth. So that was kind of my first entree into business.
And what happened with the business? Did you continue doing it for many years, or did you sell it? Or
no, we just dropped it. I pretty much got bored, and I learned that I didn't like manual labor. Yeah. And it was a lot of work for not a whole lot of pay. And at that time in my life, money wasn't really important to me. It didn't, I didn't have anything I needed to go buy.
It's a great, nice way to learn,
wanted to go buy.
Nice way to learn.
Yeah, so it's a great way to learn business and to learn relationships and to learn everything that goes into customer service and creating product that people want. But at that point in my life, I wasn't really motivated to actually grow the business or to actually really take those lessons and really apply them in my life until later on.
So did you continue just like trying things out from you were 13 and onwards? Are you still trying?
No, so pretty much after that business, I kind of dropped that. I got my one job in life, which was like landscaping work. Okay. And I had that I had that job for 2 weeks before I got fired for not showing up. And so after that I was like, man, this sucks. Like work sucks. Jobs are, I didn't want a job. I knew I didn't want a job, and at the same time I didn't really want to run my business yet. So I just kind of hung out in school and just didn't really think about business until I went to business school. Mm-hmm. And right away I was thrown into a group of classmates, and their dream was to go to Wall Street and become investment bankers. Right. They wanted to earn six figures right out of school.
Or investment bankers, as they're also called.
Absolutely right. So these guys and gals, they wanted to go become investment bankers and work 100 hours a week in a cubicle. And that to me was like my nightmare. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I got really serious about business, because I realized, look, if I keep going down the path I'm going, I'm going to be living my nightmare in a cubicle. 100 hours a week on Wall Street, which I didn't want to do any of that.
And suddenly you're 60. Or suddenly you're 60 or dead.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I was looking down in the future like, man, that's not where I want to go at all. So I realized, I had started a business before, I could do it again. And I just had to make it work and really be committed to it and find something that I was actually really passionate about versus like, manufacturing SAD lamps, which I knew was a good thing. It just wasn't something I was really excited about.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you about my day. Today, So last night I get a text message from a friend. He's like, "Oh, do you want to go play tennis tomorrow morning from 8 to 10?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go play tennis from 8 to 10." And then I was back in my office around 10:30. Then I did a couple of hours of work. Then I cycled in to Oslo to a friend of mine who's got a bike shop, and I hung out there for like an hour. And then I did some meetings on the phone, and I bought a new bike. And then I went back, and then I did a little bit more work. But it's nice to have that freedom, isn't it? It's nice to have these systems and people in place that generate money for you, you know, if you're there or not, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's one of the things I've learned about productivity is that, you know, working 8 hours a day from 9 to 5 or whatever your hours are is a really inefficient way to structure your work, right? Because most people just can't focus for 8 hours straight,
yeah,
right? Especially if you're doing the same task again and again and again. And so one of the things I love about being an entrepreneur and having my own office in my house is that I get to choose when I want to work, and when I work is when I'm being most productive, when my body and spirit and mind is all in alignment and being productive. Because if I'm not being productive, I'm just going to go take a walk. I'm going to go do something else. I'm not going to waste my time being unproductive. And that's something that you can really only get if you control your work schedule.
So let's talk about books, because that's your field. When did you get started with Amazon publishing?
So I started writing my first book at the time I went to college, right? Because I was, you know, that situation I was in with seeing my classmates wanting to go to Wall Street, I decided I had to get really clear on what I wanted with my life. And so I just started writing on a little word processor on my computer, kind of my personal manifesto, what I thought it meant to lead a successful life for me personally. And long story short, friends and family said, you know, you should get it published. I tried traditional publishing, 6 years, couldn't get an agent, couldn't get a publisher. Just completely failed. Just felt like I was banging my head against the wall over and over and over. And then about 5 years ago, someone just mentioned, why don't you just self-publish on Kindle? And I had no idea it was even possible at that time. And so I did all the research I could, and you know, self-published my first book on Kindle. And checked back a month later, and I had 14 sales. And I was so excited. I was jumping up and down. I was hooting and hollering because I hadn't told anyone I had actually published my book on Amazon. I was so embarrassed that I had to self-publish. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't do any marketing.
Secret launch.
Yeah, exactly.
I did
the secret launch where you just post on Amazon, don't tell anyone.
I did that would never work again.
Yeah.
Because I made a bet with my coach at the time. I said, I have to finish the book within the 1st of September, or else I'm going to fly your entire team to Norway and pay for all your expenses. And Norway is expensive, man. It would have been like $20,000 or something. So I published the book, but I didn't tell anyone. And then I sort of republished it afterwards. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, likewise.
So you made 14 sales. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I knew immediately, look, if I can make 14 sales without telling anyone, without doing any marketing, without treating this like a business, imagine what I could do if I actually treated this like a business, right? And actually focus on it day in, day out. And so I did that year, and within 12 months, I had my first $12,000 month just from ebook royalties alone.
Was that from one book or many books?
That was many books. So I think that was about 12 books at that time.
Okay, fantastic. Wow, and that was sort of passive income coming in no matter what.
Exactly.
What I really like about having a book out there and having it published, well, first of all, I was the same case as you. I was like, okay, I can try to get a publisher, but what they want to see is like, oh, what have you published before? What's your email list? What's your following? What's your this? What's your that? And I didn't have that. So my strategy for launching my sort of information marketing business was publish a book. And what I love seeing now is like it sells every day. People are opting into the bonuses in the book. I'm building a list because of it. I just love how that works. And I have 2 books. You have multiple books. So you're like cross-marketing everything and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the great thing about a book that is pretty impressive is that it's like one of the only marketing tools you can have that actually pays you. Right. So it's a marketing tool. It's out there every day marketing for you. It's on Amazon. It's in Google. You know, because it's on Amazon's website, it's ranking really high in Google for your search terms. Mm-hmm. If you've done that wisely, you know, people share it through word of mouth in ways that they won't share, even like free reports or free websites. And so a book, if you launch it well and market it well, it's going to provide you massive amounts of free marketing, free advertising, free PR. You know, like getting booked on all these podcasts like this, all the interviews I've done. Having a book published makes it so much easier to do that. So there's so many things when it comes to marketing that the book is just a total asset for you. And it's one of those rare tools in marketing that is actually, you get paid from the royalties, but it's also constantly marketing for you.
And some people that will be watching this are going, oh, yeah, but everybody's doing that now. It's a saturated market. What are your thoughts on that?
It's not a saturated market. And the thing with books is that it can never be saturated. And here's why. Because, there's no reader who reads like one book and then is like, oh, I'm done. Right. So if you write fiction or romance or science fiction or personal development or self-help or, whatever it is that you write, your ideal readers aren't going to read just your book and nothing else in your market. They're going to read your book and all the other 50 top books in the market. Right. And so as long as your book is unique and valuable and has a message that's actually going to change people's lives or help people entertain them or solve a problem for them, they're going to buy it. Right. And so I think the reason it has become so saturated is because a lot of people think they can just make money with it without actually providing value. Right. It's like any business where there's low barriers to entry. You're going to have a lot of people in that business.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it's a hard business to get in. It doesn't mean it's a hard business to succeed in. It doesn't mean it's hard to make $1 million in that business, because it's not. The difficulty is in creating something that's so valuable and so unique that people actually want it. Right. So there's a lot of people out there actually like writing like Me Too books, like, oh, Tim Ferriss wrote the 4-hour work week, so I'm going to write, the 5-hour work week, right?
No,
or something like that.
A book called Never Work Again.
Right.
Because if you're only working 4 hours a week, then better than that is never working.
Right. Totally. But see, the thing with your book, and that's different, I think, from a lot of other books out there, is that your book is actually unique. It has a unique message, right? It's not just like repackaged content, repackaged crap that's just the same, right? And I think that's what a lot of people are trying to do. And so that's why when you see people say, oh, I wrote a book, especially in like the nonfiction space, and it didn't do well, or no one's buying it, or whatever, it might be just because they don't understand like the branding and positioning and marketing of their book, or in a lot of cases, it's because they wrote a Me Too book. Right? Like, we don't need another Me Too book on weight loss, right? There's so many out there. But every once in a while, someone comes along and writes a unique book that has, a unique message and changes the game. So there's a book called Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, right? By Mike Matthews. And this guy is a self-published author. He published the book, I think, 3 years ago. He had no audience, no platform at the time, just a little blog. Actually, he didn't even have a blog at the time. He was just like, it was like, his side project.
Right.
But he spent so much time writing that book and so much time making sure it was unique and so much time doing the research that when he published it, it shot the top of the charts on Amazon. He sold hundreds of thousands of copies now. He's turned that into a blog that gets millions of visitors every month, and he's turned that into a supplement company that does over $10 million a year in revenue. All came from that one book, because it wasn't just another weight loss book filled with the same crap again and again and again. He did unique research. He had a unique idea, and he delivered it in a way that was really, really valuable. He put the work into it. And so that, people say weight loss is the most saturated market in books.
Right.
And he proved that you can still come into this market as a complete unknown and dominate it if you do something unique and add value. And so it's like the simple rule of everything in business, Erlend, is like, you have to provide value and you have to create something that's unique or different, right? It doesn't have to be better, right? Because it's like, how can you measure a better weight loss? Like, how is one book on weight loss better than another, right? You can't measure that, but it has to be unique, right? So if someone's read, Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, right? If someone's already read that book and your book is just basically a rehash of that same exact information, they're going to be like, oh, this is just like that other book, except written much more poorly, right? And they're going to leave you bad reviews and you're not going to get a lot of sales. So you just have to do something, unique and different and that adds a lot of value.
I can't remember who said this, but somebody said, like, if you're going to write a book, then write a fucking book, right? I mean, that's the thing with the next book that I'm writing is like, I want it to be better. I want it to be a really, really, really awesome book that people kind of give to other people, and really add massive, massive value in every single way that we possibly can for the reader. That's the focus of the new book, and it needs to. I want it to be better than Never Work Again. Like the lessons I learned from that, I'm implementing into the new book. So it's interesting, but yeah, I think you gotta. It's a great example with the guy that like really took the time and really poured his heart and soul into it, and then of course he got like the marketing right and stuff like that. But yeah, good for him. Good for him. Awesome stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So a couple of questions that can actually help you when you're writing a book, especially if you're working on nonfiction. So I have something what I call thinking time. So I lock the door in the room, shut all distractions, no phones, no beeps, no interruptions, and just sit down with pen and paper, and I write down questions. And I do this when I'm writing a book. And so I'll ask questions like, okay, for a nonfiction book, okay, what is the one key problem this book is solving? Right? Because a lot of nonfiction authors, they don't really focus on that. Like you're solving a problem. Your job is to solve a problem for your reader, because the reason they're buying a book called Never Work Again is because they have a problem, right? And so by clearly defining what is that problem that they have, then you can get really clear on how do you actually solve that problem. Right? A big mistake a lot of people make, especially with their first book, is you just write down everything you know in the book and you say, oh, here's my book, right? But it's not focused, because you haven't really thought clearly about the problem that you're solving for the reader. And so you haven't structured and organized and written the book to deliver the solutions for your reader. And so when they're reading that book, the reader might have that exact problem, but because you weren't focused on that problem, you're not solving it as well as you could, right? So getting really crystal clear on the problem you're solving, I think, is crucial. And then after that, then you go into the organization stuff. So and the ideas. So what are the big ideas that have to be in this book in order to solve that problem for my reader? Right? And then what other additional resources and tools can you provide for them? So maybe you want to provide a checklist, because that checklist will help people, like it's something complex, like running a business is complex. But if you can give them a checklist of, okay, here's what you need to do every day or every week or every month in your business to make sure that you're on the right track, that can provide massive value above and beyond the book. Right? So just thinking about what other tools and resources can you provide in the book for your reader to help them solve those problems. So by actually focusing on your reader and what they want, that's how you write a great book. And so one really simple way to do that is go look on around.Com and check out the best-selling books in your market, right? So if you're writing on weight loss, go check out all the top 50 best books on weight loss right now on Amazon, and take a close look at their cover design, their book titles, their descriptions. Study all that stuff, read the first 2 pages, see how they get readers hooked into the book. But then what you really want to do is listen to your readers. Like most authors don't read their readers, which is like absurd to me, because every single day your ideal readers are posting reviews on Amazon telling you exactly what they want, exactly what they don't want in your market.
Read the book reviews of other books.
Exactly. So what you do is you read all the top reviews, the positive ones, and all the negative ones. And have a journal with you, have a notebook, and start taking notes. And every time you see multiple comments on the same idea, the same topic, jot that down. So if it's just one random person who says, like, hey, I hate this book because it's too long, but only one reader says that, then it's not really relevant. But if you see 5 reviews saying, hey, this book is so long and boring, then you want to write that down, because that means that book is too long and boring for a certain segment of those readers, right? And so by writing down all these notes, you'll find out exactly what your readers want. You'll be able to discover exactly who your ideal readers are. Most people never do this. It's like this simple formula to creating a best-selling book. It's just go read the reviews of the top books in your market, and they'll tell you exactly what they want in a book in that market, and then you can just go create that.
So there's so much data out there already. Like the data is there for free to figure out and sort of reverse engineer that into your book. That's amazing. I have not thought of that. I have not thought of that. Why haven't I thought of that?
I think it's just a weird way of thinking about the world, right? Like most of us think when we're creative people, right? Like you're creative. To be an entrepreneur, you have to be creative. Right? Yeah. I used to think that business people were left brain. It's not the case at all. Huh?
It's a curse and a blessing at the same time.
Absolutely, right? It's a curse and a blessing for sure. So you have to focus on, as a creator, you have to focus on how do I create, right? Because that's how you keep moving forward. You have to constantly be creating stuff, right?
Yeah.
The problem with that is that if you're constantly just creating, then you're not using your left brain analytical. And so this is a very analytical, very boring, very mundane task that for your creative brain is torture, right? But when you do it and you really focus on it, you'll realize all these ideas will start popping through your head because your readers are telling you all the ideas that they want and the need in the book. So it's you have to kind of blend the analytical thinking with the creativity in order to do it. And it's not fun, right? It's, reading through 5,000 reviews on Amazon or 10,000 reviews on Amazon, it's not fun, right? No one's going to tell you that, I'm not going to lie to you and say it's so you're going to get so much enjoyment out of it, because you probably won't. But you're going to get so much knowledge and wisdom out of it if you're willing to put the time in.
I guess that is a task you could outsource. I mean, you could have somebody sort of categorize and sort of try to create some kind of Excel for you I guess. But sometimes you got to go out there and do it yourself too.
Absolutely. So I would recommend, like with anything, even if you're going to outsource it, I recommend at least doing the first initial bit by yourself. So to read the first 500 or 1,000, spend an hour or two doing it yourself.
That many.
And then if you want to outsource it, then you can be really clear on, okay, here's the kind of things we need to look for. Here's the kind of things we don't want.
But 500 to 1,000 reviews you read.
Huh?
You should read 500 and
5,000 or 10,000. It depends on the market.
Really?
So you're just going to read the reviews of the top books in your market.
Wow.
Right? And so if it's a smaller market, there might be less reviews. If there's a bigger market, there might be more reviews. But I mean, once you start going through a couple hundred or a couple thousand, you'll really quickly be able to weed out the ones that have no substance in them, right? Mm-hmm. So normally ones that are longer are going to have more substance. Mm-hmm. So short reviews are like 3 lines. Usually you can just ignore them.
So you start spotting trends as well when you do that, like for every book. But also, like, do you also notice trends between the different books as well? Or
absolutely,
yeah,
you will notice that for sure. So, to give you an example, one of the books that we published is called Unlimited Memory, and it's the #1 bestseller right now on Amazon. It's been that way for like over a year.
Wow.
A client, Kevin Horsley, is in South Africa. He's like a world memory champion. He's won like all his world memory records. And it's a great book. And I think the reason why the book has done so well and continues to do so well is because if you look at all the reviews for all the other memory books in that market, it's really clear that they're all missing something. And then what they're really missing is that those books are all like long and boring and filled with stories. And there's like no step-by-step manual of how to actually improve your memory, right? There just isn't. And there's all these kind of like Me Too books by like internet marketers that were like really poorly written that try to be that, but didn't really have the credibility and didn't really have the structure to make it a useful tool for readers. And so this was like the first book on Amazon that I've seen there's like just like a step-by-step how-to manual to actually improve your memory in 150 pages, so you can read it in like a day or an afternoon. But the exercises are something that you practice for life, right? Because you're constantly improving your memory. And so like Moonwalking with Einstein, it's a great book on memory, really, but it's long and honestly it's kind of boring and it's a lot of stories, and it's a book that you read because you like the writer and the way that he writes. It's not a book that you read because you want to become a memory master or improve your memory, because that's not what it delivers.
I read 2 chapters of that book and then I haven't revisited it since. So yes, point proven. So let's talk about traditional versus sort of self-publishing, some numbers, some statistics.
Sure. So, self-publishing has just been like this tidal wave, this revolution in the industry right now. So if you look at the top 100 books on Amazon right now, there's more of them are self-published than are traditionally published from the big 5 publishers, right? So right now, self-published authors, indie authors are outselling on Amazon big five published authors, right? And so that has happened in just a couple of years. It's happened so quickly. And I think a big part of it is just ebooks. So the way people buy books now has changed because of ebooks. So with ebooks, most people you're buying like on your iPhone, on your Kindle device, on your iPad. You're buying in a completely different way. So you're not going to a bookstore and browsing through, and there's no gatekeeper. Right, so my listing on Amazon looks the same as your listing on Amazon looks the same as some big 5 traditionally published book on Amazon. There's no differentiation.
Right. You don't get
and no one ever looks at the little tab that says who the publisher is. Right?
Yeah.
No one cares. No one cares who the publisher is.
If it looks good,
so what readers?
If it looks good, a self-published book that looks good, who cares? It's people still look at the cover though, right? Because the cover is like 90% of sales.
Exactly. So if you look at how people actually buy books today, on a computer screen or on a device or on a tablet or on an iPhone, right? Exactly. That's what they're looking at. They're looking at the book cover, the book title, the book description, and the reviews. And some of them will also look inside the book and read the first 10% of your book, right? So when a reader actually makes the decision to buy a book nowadays, it doesn't actually have to do with the quality of the book, right? It has to do with the marketing and the packaging and the positioning and the promotion of it, right? The book cover, the title, everything we just mentioned. And so your reader buys your book before they actually even know what's in it, right? They buy it before they actually experience it. And so, to get that initial sale is kind of super easy if you understand the formula, right? You have a good book cover, you have a good book title, you have good book description, you have good reviews, and you have a good first 10% of your book, right? So the key is then to have a good rest of the 90% of your book, so it's so valuable that when people actually read it, they get to the end of the book and say, wow, that's awesome. I'm going to go leave a review on Amazon. I'm going to go share this with my friends and family. I'm going to go tell people about this. I'm going to post a review online. That's how you get word of mouth sales. And word of mouth is still the number one reason why people buy books, right? And so I think the reason why there's so many self-published authors just outselling these big 5 published books is because, for a lot of reasons. So first of all, as a self-published author, you just have complete control, complete editorial control, right? So instead of having some, New York editor tell you what to do and what you can't do, you can just do what you want to do with your book. And so you can create something totally unique that's never been done before. Yeah. Big 5 publishers, they're not going to publish genre mixing stuff. So we've got a lot of clients at my publishing company, and they write romance that's historical with fantasy elements with mystery interwoven, and they're bending 5 different genres into one book, which a traditional publisher would never ever go for.
Right.
But sometimes the readers just love it, right? Yeah. The readers just love it because it's unique, because it's different. And so as a self-published author, you can really get your message out there without without losing editorial control. So you still have to make sure you have a good editor. You still have to make sure it's it's written well, and
it's going to be a good product.
Really.
It's going to be a good product. If you're going to write a book, write a fucking book. Don't put out lots of crap.
Exactly.
So basically, my books, Outsourcing Mastery, I did not put a lot of time into. Never Work Again was a long process, and Never Work Again keeps on selling. Outsourcing Mastery doesn't really sell. That's just proof. So what about percentage-wise, sales on Amazon versus traditional bookstores and stuff like that?
So it depends where you get your data, right? So if you look at a lot of publishing industry data online, you just search for stuff. Most of it comes from the trade associations from the traditional publishers. And so it leaves out all the data from self-published indie authors, right? And so it totally skews the numbers completely. If you look at self-published authors and the students I've worked with in our publishing company, usually 80% of your sales are going to come from ebooks, maybe 70-80% from ebooks, across the board, across all markets and genres. Certain markets are completely different. And maybe 10 to 15% from print books and 10 to 15% from audiobooks, digital audiobooks. Right, so the vast majority of your royalties from most self-published authors are going to come from the actual ebook version of your book. Now, it's very different from market to market. So, for example, if you're a public speaker and you're speaking at lots of conferences, you're probably going to sell books at the back of the room, physical books, not ebooks, right? And so you can make a ton of money selling physical books, at the back of the room as a public speaker or speaking at conferences and events and so forth. If you're in a market children's books, children's picture books, right, you're going to sell most of your books in physical format, right? If you're in a market like self-help, personal development, you might sell 20, 30, 40% of your books in audiobook format, digital audiobook format, because that's booming right now. Right. So it really just depends on the market.
Cool. And okay, so you had your books out. How many books have you published so far?
So I have 20 books myself that I've published and written, and the publishing company, we've published several hundred books.
Right. So what is the process that you go through with? So let's say for my next book, if I was interested in publishing with you guys, what's the step-by-step process? How does that work?
So the first thing you just reach out to us at tckpublishing.com. There's a tab at the top that says submissions. Submission guidelines, and so you want to check those out and see what kind of books we actually publish, because we don't publish everything. So for example, we don't publish children's picture books, we don't publish poetry, we don't publish coffee table art kind of style books, because those are just really small niche markets and they require a lot of overhead from offset printing and so forth. Right. So we're really more in the main markets for fiction and nonfiction. So first of all, see this is basic principle for finding any publishers. You want to see what their submission guidelines are, what kind of work they actually publish, and what kind of work they actually do. Then after that, you send us an email and tell us a little bit more about you and your project, and then we'll get back to you with next steps. But on the website, there's also there's a client checklist you can check out to see that walks you through the entire publishing process.
Cool. And what kind of timeline is it? Let's say you really want to get this book out there. What's the typical timeline average?
So we can do it in as little as 90 days in terms of ebook, print book, and audiobook. So audiobook takes about 60 days or so. From the time you actually deliver the final manuscript to actually get it narrated and produced and edited and published and available for sale for customers. But I would say, 80% of our clients who are kind of in a rush or on a tight timeline, they really skipped over the editing part. And so we always tell them, like, stop, you don't want to publish yet. You need to go back and work on the editing because, publishing a book that hasn't been well edited is just going to bomb. Doesn't matter how good your marketing is. It's not going to stay long term and you're going to get lots of bad reviews.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of our clients, we have to tell, hey, just slow down. Let's focus on editing and get that done. And then when that's ready, then we move on. But we do stuff really fast. I mean, like, we can get the ebook published in 7 days from the time you send us the file.
And you do everything from ebook and then paperback to audio book.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you recommend the author read in the audiobook himself, or somebody else could do it?
I almost never recommend the author do it because unless you're like a professional voice actor or public speaker and you're really trained, and you have access to the recording equipment that you need, then it's going to cost you more and take more time to do it yourself versus hiring a professional. So you can get, for example, like an 80,000 word novel, which is like 300, 400 pages novel. You can get that produced for like $2,000 in audiobook format, which for that amount of work is super cheap, right? And so to do it yourself, if you want to rent studio time like $70, $80, $150 an hour for a studio, professional recording studio, to do it yourself, you would you'd probably rack up a bill of $5,000 or more.
But there's also ACX on Amazon, which I used. So Neil Strauss, the author of The Game and many other books, he reads them himself, but he's, as you say, he's a trained public speaker. But what I feel is like you get a different relationship with the author when the author reads it himself. Like 4 Hour Workweek was not read by Tim Ferriss; it was done by somebody else, and then the authenticity wasn't really the same. So I think it, like, again, if like the example of the book that you said, the Lean book that you talked about, if he like did the audiobook himself, I think it creates a deeper relationship with the audience.
So it really just depends like on the author. So like if you have like one book, right, and it's just that one book you're literally launching, like you're not writing another book this year, right? This is that one book, and this is like your business, and you're totally focused on it, and you really want that deeper connection with your customers, then by all means go do it yourself. Just realize it's going to generally cost you more and take more time to do that way, right? But if you're like publishing like 4 romance novels a year, right, like there's no reason you should be narrating your own audiobooks. It's definitely something you should outsource. If you're writing multiple books a year, again, like you have to look at your business and like where is your time more valuable, right? Is it more valuable for you to focus on writing or more valuable for you to focus on recording that audiobook?
Absolutely. And is it still that 9 out of 10 books are nonfiction? No, are fiction. 9 out of 10 are fiction.
That's pretty close. Yeah. I mean, it's so just romance alone on Amazon, like 50%, 47% of all the ebooks bought on Amazon are romance.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So that's a massive market then.
Yeah. So it's like for every book someone buys on weight loss, they're buying like at least 100 romance books on an ebook format on Amazon.
So within nonfiction, you have dating, fat loss, cooking, and then make money. Is that the order of what like most popular is?
So it depends. So I think like health and wellness is pretty popular. Self-help is really popular, and business and investing, anything to do with money, is really popular. So those 3, I say, are closely tied. It just depends how you count the numbers, right? Like what is in that niche and what isn't. So those are the 3 big markets. So health and wellness, business and investing, anything to do with money, and then just space.
Okay.
The other one I just mentioned.
Yeah. So what are the sort of key trends that you're noticing in the sort of book world? What are sort of the things that are becoming bigger, as in trends?
Yeah, so I think one of the big trends right now is digital audiobooks. Okay. They're just booming right now.
What does that mean?
And there's
just like audio like audiobooks you listen to?
Yeah, digital audiobooks. So instead of like a CD or like a cassette tape, right, like old school audiobooks, digital. Right. So audible.com is where it's all at.
Yeah.
Right. So Audible is like 90% plus of the digital audiobook market in the US at least. So Audible, which is owned by Amazon, pretty much controls that market. And those are booming right now. Those sales are really, really growing fast. And it's still a very small percentage of the market, but I think it's going to pick up.
Okay. And other things you're noticing? Some
I mean, the other trend is like the one we mentioned, of where self-publishers and indie publishers are just taking over the market and becoming, most of the best-selling books now are from self-published authors, right? And so I think that's just changed the game, because I think a lot of traditionally published authors are looking at that and saying, hey, like this, my author buddy over here self-published this book, and they're selling just as many copies of me, and they're earning 10 times as much from that book than I am with the traditional publisher. And so a lot of traditionally published authors who are very successful and get big contracts are switching over to self-publishing. A lot of them are just doing hybrid, where they're doing some traditional deals and some self-publishing deals. So I think that's going to continue more and more, is that authors who already have a big platform, you don't need a publisher, right? You don't need the publisher to go out there
It's interesting.
And do the marketing
It's
for
interesting
you.
because the publisher says to you, like, what's your platform, right? If you go to the publisher, they say, what's your platform, right? And if you have a platform, you don't need the publisher. Anyway. So if I want to get my book into sort of the airport, because there's a lot of books being sold at airports, right? And it's a sort of a good place to have a business book where businessmen are, where like, C-suite executives, they pick a book for their flight to the US and such. How do you get into the airport stores?
So pretty much anything like that, with you want physical retail distribution. First of all, you need, if you're a self-published author, you need like a wholesaler. So like Ingram is the big one. So that you can publish your book with a Lightning Source, print on demand, and it can be available through Ingram, the wholesaler. So that what that does, it just makes it available, so that those stores can actually order your book through their databases.
Right.
But then you have to actually go sell into that market. So you have to go find the buyers, the book buyers, who distribute into airport stores, for example, right, or bookstores or libraries. Well, libraries is different than librarians, but still. So you have to have that distribution first of all, and then you have to go out and make those sales. So I'm not really an expert in that particular field of airport sales, but I know a lady who is. Her name's Amy Collins,
Okay.
And we can link to her website in the show notes.
Sure.
But she is absolutely brilliant, and she has done that again and again and again for clients. And so her passion is actually working with self-published authors to actually get them that kind of distribution.
So, what's the difference between CreateSpace and Ingram? Because I thought, like, when you publish on CreateSpace, that you actually get all the different bookstores get access to order books.
Yeah. So with CreateSpace, the reason why you want to use CreateSpace is because it's owned by Amazon. And so when you sell on Amazon, you're going to get better royalties. You're going to earn more, per book you sell. So you always want CreateSpace to sell on Amazon. Lightning Source is what you want to use if you want access to other retailers. And the reason is because most book buyers, whether they're at libraries, although not so much at libraries, but especially at any kind of bookstore, airport stores, that kind of thing, they hate Amazon. They don't want to give Amazon any more money. And so if they see that your book is wholesaled through Amazon, they're like, no, we don't want that, right? And it's not necessarily all the time the case, so they're not always going to decline to buy your book just because of that, but a lot of times that they actually will, right? Okay. And so by using Lightning Source, you have the kind of third-party wholesaler that they feel much more comfortable doing business with, and so they're much more likely to actually buy your book. So it's one of those just quirky things about business where, people's kind of, it's all about the mental aspect, right? There's no other difference other than the mental aspect of the book buyer.
Absolutely.
So it just comes down to the basic, business truth, which is understand your customer, like understand these book buyers and what they really want. And what they really want is not to buy from CreateSpace. They want to buy from another wholesaler.
Right. But you're allowed to list in both places.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I know you talked us through this before, but like if somebody's been listening to this episode, how can they get in touch with you guys? What can you do to sort of take action on your book today?
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing is check out, I have 4 free training videos. So if you're interested in self-publishing, if you're interested in learning how to actually publish your book on Amazon and how to actually market and start building your platform, I have 4 free training videos that walk you through that process at ebookpublishingschool.com. And so that's a great place to start if you're just looking for some free information to learn more and get you on the right foot, on the right track. You can also check out the publishing company and our blog at tckpublishing.com. We've got lots of awesome checklists there too, like a checklist on Kindle publishing that you can print out, just walks you through the entire process. We've got a checklist for CreateSpace publishing that walks you through that process of getting your book in print. all kinds of other great information there as well. And then my podcast show, the Publishing Profits Podcast, is a weekly show where we interview best-selling authors, agents, publishers to share like what's working right now in the industry. And like, so example, just a couple of weeks ago, we did episode 100, and that's all about actually licensing your book rights in other languages to foreign publishers. So even though you're a self-published author, you can still be earning advances and royalties from your book in other languages, like in German and Chinese and other countries, and still keep all the rights for your book in English. And so it's really cool. And so that episode just walks you through that entire process, and it's like a checklist, right? Like you can literally go down the show notes in that episode, and you can see, all the lists of all the agents you can contact and the exact email template you can use to reach out to them to get that done for you. So that's all at publishingprofitspodcast.com.
So guys, Tom Corson Knowles is going surfing soon. No, you have another meeting, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going surfing because it's like 10 o'clock at night here in Oslo. But I would like to say that it's been awesome having you on the show. Really good insights. Fantastic. And guys, if you like this episode, if you enjoy listening to them or watching them on YouTube, please hit like below, subscribe, or it really helps us reach a bigger audience and keep on doing what we're doing. So Tom, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks so much, Erlend. It's been a pleasure. Take care.
This podcast is brought to you by MrOutsource.com. Outsourcing to the Philippines done for you. Mr. Outsource is a recruitment company matching busy entrepreneurs with Filipino virtual assistants, so you can have the time to focus on what's important.